Thank you for staying with us. Let's get into the news now. And several shops at the famous Opera Square were engulfed in flames yesterday. The fire is said to have started at around 4 p.m., but took several hours for the fire service to bring it under control. My colleague Samuel Kojo-Brace was at the scene and interacted with an eyewitness and a fire personnel.
The fire service is here battling to get this fire under control. But as you said, as hard as they fight, the fire still rages on. I have a trader here who sells around and is an eyewitness to this whole thing. Chief, what's your name, sir? What's your name?
I'm Kufash.
What did you see?
We are just here. We are here in the afternoon time, and it was around 4 something, about 4:20 to 4:30 over there. I was in front of the shop. We are just waiting for customers to come and buy from our shop. So I'm here with my brother. My brother was the first person who saw it. And he told me, he said, Kofi, look at it. It seems there is a fire over there. And I look at it, I said, what? What is happening over here? And I saw the fire over there. So I said, no, let's call fire people. So I just called them on 999. I just 999 or something like that. So when we call them, the noise is going, but no one is taking it. So I said, no, we have to follow. So we take a motor from here to the place, and we went to, their place there. So when we get there, we told them. So the people over there, they say, okay, we should go, they will come. So along the line, they speak to one of their drivers. Oh, okay. So they told some of their drivers and they moved the first car. But you know, this way is a one way. So when they wanted to come to this side, it is very, very difficult because the cars are many there. Okay. And it is not easy for them to come. Okay. So we begged some of the drivers, especially the trotro drivers. We told them that, no, please, we are coming to this side, so you people should take one side. So the cars, the fire service cars, they have access to this place. So they obey what we said, we told them. So they give us one place to, and we pass. So we came here. So when they came, so lucky, they did a very good job. Yes, because if not because of them, we don't know what is going to happen at the end of the day.
So I see a bank down here. I see some stores down, but
there are 2 banks there.
2 banks.
Yeah.
And you tell me that this whole floor is just for one company?
This first floor is for the China people.
Okay.
They have been selling bags and these rubber shoes and all those things. You understand?
Okay, so we are still here at the Opera Square where the fire is still raging on, and I must say the fire service are trying all they can, but it looks like this fire is really, really a tough one to fight. Yeah, so you mean this is for one Chinese company?
Yeah, the first floor.
Okay, what about the top?
That place is offices. We have some lawyers over there.
Oh, lawyers have their offices here?
Yeah, I remember there was a time, so we have some lawyers over there. And some of the companies too have their office over there. Yes. So as for that place, the top is for offices. And the first floor, that place is for the China people. Yeah.
Have they been trading here for quite a long time? Do you know how much worth of goods are in there?
Oh, I think they have a lot of things over there. Because every month they used to bring goods. So, let me speak my mind. I think they will have about more than 40-footer containers over there. They have about 40-footer containers, about 20 over there.
Wow.
Yeah, bags and shoes. Yes, for the China people.
For people who are watching us, what's the name of this building? Does it have a popular name?
Yeah, this is Opera Square, Opera building. This formerly, it was a cinema something. It was cinema building, yes. But now individuals have rented and we are using it for shows.
So this is the building whose name has been named over this place.
Opera Square. That's it.
So if you are watching, I'm told the building that the fire is the building which is engulfed in the fire is the Opera building itself. Yeah. Well, I have a member of the Ghana National Fire Service communication team here, Alex Ken. Chief, you are the technical people. Tell us what's really happening.
Okay, so for now we can't ascertain the cause of fire, but what we can say is that our men have been working assiduously to put out the fire. The building houses 2 banks, the GT Bank and the Bank of Africa. So far, our men have been able to cool and contain the building from the fire from spreading to the banks. So as you can see, the banks, the only bank that got affected was the GT Bank. Even with that was just their server room. We were able to contain the fire from spreading to the banking hall. So none of the banking halls were affected. Some of our obstacles include, if you turn your camera towards here, you realize that our men went up there, tried breaking the building, but the people have used concrete to block the wall,
the window, yeah.
to block the window. So it's difficult to fight the fire. So our men had to, and you see, we could have used more time fighting the fire rather than to use time breaking through that concrete to be able to fight the fire. So far our men are using every mechanism possible. The unfortunate thing is that we have hydrants here. Unfortunately, people have built on these hydrants, and also the hydrants are not flowing. Ghana Water has not been giving us water, and this is something that whenever we raise becomes an issue, but there's no water flowing through the hydrants. So our men have to go way far, as far as Circle, as far as Osu and all, just to go and replenish and come back here. So far we have well over 10 appliances here, and everyone, and even our chief fire officer himself is here, our Accra regional commander is here, the director of operations himself is here. This shows the level of commitment, this shows the level of seriousness that the fire service attaches to this incidents.
Well, I can see that, I don't know, what do you call this one? What has carried your man up there? If you had many of it, I'm sure you could have done a better job.
Okay, so we have a lot, but looking at it, just one can, because we are tackling the fire from different angles. That one is tackling from up there, and this other one is tackling from down there. So it's just one is needed to be able to, it's called a turntable ladder. So it helps us to be able to reach heights in order to fight the fires from heights. So realize that it gives them a very good view of how the fire is and helps to fight the fire much better.
Okay, so what do you think is the challenge that has resulted in you spending close to more than 2 hours in fighting this fire? What's really the factor that is not helping you to quench it?
Okay, so the building itself lacks a lot of structural integrity. If you take a closer look at the building, you realize that it has a lot of cracks there. And once these cracks are subject to much more heat, it's susceptible to collapse. It can collapse at any time. So it requires a tactical approach to be able to fight the fire. We fought much more raging fires than this. 2 weeks ago, there was fire at Timber Market. Our men fought it. So our men are on top of the game to fight this fire. It's unfortunate that because it's a shop, it contains a lot of different materials. Some are very combustible. I learned some contain packs, like the takeaway packs, and then caps, and then boxes, and there are slippers, and all these things are very combustible. Also, what I suspect is that there might be some other oily or gaseous things there. So even though we fought with water, we realized that the fire was trying to reignite again. So we had to adopt the foam. So if you look on the floor, you realize that we are using the foam. So it's called the foam concentrate. It's something that we use to fight the fires.
But when I was speaking to the trader, he was alleging that when they called your number earlier, nobody was answering.
Okay, so
why that challenge?
Okay, so I was listening to him. He said he called 999. That's not our number. Our number is 192. When you call 192 also, there's a lot of people who are getting, if you spend a day at our Fire Master Control, you'll be amazed. You'll be astonished at the number of calls that our Fire Master Control receives. So when you call, it's a queue. So you might call. There might be someone on the line. So until we are done with that person, so whenever we go on interviews, whenever we do our fire safety campaigns, we encourage people to get the numbers of the fire service stations that's closest to them, so that you can call the fire station that's closest to you directly. So it doesn't have to go through our Fire Master Control before the appliance here is dispatched.
What could have helped you fight this fire better than you've done?
Well, if we had fire hydrants here were flowing with water, one, it would have helped. And if the people here gave prominence, or they paid attention to our hydrants without having to build shops on it, without having to set up their wares on this and make the hydrants a dumping space for their refuse, we could have easily tapped into the fire hydrants from here and fought the fire. But right now, it means that whenever we run out of water, there are more appliances coming though. But instead
it looks like the fire is still, the more you fight it, the more it comes.
Yes.
What is really...
So as I said, there are a lot of different materials in there.
That is why.
That's why.
But your hydrant, why did you also sit aloof and watch people build on them?
So the hydrants is the responsibility of the Ghana Water Company. Okay, yes, it's for us. But at the end of the day, there's no water even flowing through. The ones that people haven't built on, there's no water flowing through. Ghana Water has not given us any water. So we have to go very, very far. This appliance is from Abelenke. They were here earlier, about 2 hours ago. They came to fight the fire. They ran out, and this contains thousands of gallons of water. So for it to run out, you realize that we are fighting a fire. They had to go all the way back, almost getting to Abelenke, just to replenish and come back here. And that's precious time that we could have used to fight the water. So please, if the media will implore on the Ghana Water to ensure that our hydrants will flow, we will be able to better fight fires. When the Makula fire came, the issue of the hydrants came up. And if that issue was sorted, by now, I'm sure we wouldn't be having...
Maybe you should also be doing a regular checkup on your hydrant to see how they are functioning. Maybe we wouldn't be here talking about this.
We do our regular checkup.
Now, the Kuntanase District Court in the Ashanti region has remanded a tailor's apprentice who allegedly killed a friend at Sewa on Friday in an attempt to avoid paying 100 CD debt owed him. Emmanuel Boateng will be in police custody for 2 weeks. The Bosomtwe District Police Command says there is enough evidence linking the suspect to the murder of Kweku Edu Ijemfi, a second-year student of the KNUST. Adanaya Ojima has more in this report.
The suspect, Emmanuel Boateng, made his first appearance in court on Monday. Prosecution in court demanded more time for completion of investigations. DSP Eric Akwabwa is district police commander.
Even though he has confessed, he has led us to retrieve the phone. You cannot keep a suspect for more than 48 hours in police custody. So we took him to court today for the court to remind him so that we can continue with our investigations.
Love News investigations reveal the suspect and the victim were friends. Emmanuel Boateng was a tenant in a property owned by the family of the deceased at Esreso. It is established the suspect was fed by the family of the deceased as they shared a fence wall.
It would me be fear. Nancy Mammy Yarekra Mabukubrekum. To acquire me Hano wa, Obedi ha, one me bano. O free school bus ya ono ma ni dia groba enye se bia o ne me ba no wo bibinya me ba no just oba me fia e ba no me ba no bi dia good na no wasa
omo ben omo ya namfo
tight pa namfo pa nyagro I see me andamfo.
Kweku Edu Ijemfi, who was running an errand, had called on his friend Emmanuel Boateng to escort him. The suspect later convinced the deceased to go with him to nearby Sewa, requesting his assistance to take videos of a land he claims his parents had purchased. After the videos were taken, the suspect asked the victim to wait for him to attend to nature's call. District Commander DSP Eric Akwabwa says it was at this point the suspect brought out a club to commit the crime, as confessed at the crime scene.
He had already planted a club around the scene. So when deceased went with him, he told the deceased to sit down as, he goes to attend the nature's call. So deceased was sitting down, making a call. Then he went behind the deceased, picked the club and came and hit his neck. Deceased fell and he hit him till he died.
Police have since retrieved an iPhone 11 Pro owned by the deceased from the room of the suspect. It is believed the mobile phone and an amount of 100 CDs the suspect owed the victim could be the reason for the murder. At the family home of the deceased, the parents of the deceased sit as neighbors come in to express their condolences. Saddened by the death of their ward, parents continue to ask why a close family friend could do this. Yao Edu Ijemfi is father of the deceased.
Ya ono aso ne yebisa ne se hemfa na mo fa ya mokutukuko ne me wife na na se chini hwe akola no ono asa ne omonam e se gina ha nwumre be around be 7:30 e gina ha na police phone say boy no kutukuko no mentini nyina o mama ne nko na me ko gina ne 10 minutes no mobile ne mbe chene de koi.
The Kuntanase District Court is expected to sit on the case again on 9th May. For JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Let's talk about another situation, and 2 persons have been arrested in connection with the Zakoli shooting incident in the Yendi municipality of the northern region. The suspect, a lady, has been remanded into police custody to help with investigations. It will be recalled that 8 people were killed by unknown gunmen in Zakoli in what community members believe is a reprisal on the death of a Konkomba man. The Northern Regional Crime Officer, Superintendent Bernard Baba Ananga, has been speaking to the Northern Regional Correspondent Martina Bugri on the latest arrest.
There was an arrest in connection with the Zakole murder issue that happened recently, where 8 Fulanis were killed. One suspect was arrested and is in helping investigations. A female suspect was also picked up by the police to assist in that regard. The one who was arrested was, that one was in Yeni, and then the other one was also arrested in one of the communities in which investigations are ongoing to unearth the group or the gang responsible for this heinous crime.
So we have 2 arrests now?
We have 2 arrests now. Our main suspect, who is the man who used the motorcade to carry the suspects to the scene to carry out these offenses, was arrested, and he's before court, has been remanded. For now, it is too early for us to come out to tell you what he is saying. We are still gathering intelligence. We are also seeking the assistance of the communities and other persons that matter to assist the police to identify others on the run. For now, some of the communities that we believe these suspects may be hiding, our inquiries has suggested that they have moved away, and we are still moving on.
Now, the paramount chief of the Laura traditional area, Na Puwele Karbo III, has underscored the significant role chiefs in the country play, stating that their role is no more about leading their subjects to war for annexation of territory, but rather leading them on the path of socio-economic development. He therefore implored the newly enskinned chief of Babile to shoulder the challenges of the people and open his doors to the government and other developmental partners to bring the needed development to the area. Na Puwele Kabo made the statement at the enskinment of Na Dakwa II as the chief of the area. The Babile area has been without a chief for 23 years. JoyNews' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam now reports from Babile.
The colorful ceremony, which was replete with the rich culture and tradition of the Babile area, was attended by sons and daughters of the Babile traditional area, including paramount chiefs, divisional and sub-chiefs in the Laura traditional area. The Laura traditional area is made up of 8 divisions, 8 sub-chiefs, and 200 chiefs. The last time a similar ceremony was held to enskin a chief for the Babile area was almost 3 decades ago, when the late Na Abeifa Kabu II enskinned Na Kudakwa II, who reigned for 6 years before he passed on. Ever since the demise of Na Kudakwa II, there has been a protracted dispute which is not about who will succeed him, but which paramount chief has the right to perform the rites for his coronation. Regent of Babile, Vatus Kadwei, before the enskinment, explained that since the days of yore, it has always been the preserve of the Lorana to enskin chiefs at Babile, and today's ceremony was set to repeating itself.
About 3 decades ago, a similar function was performed by Na Abeifa Kabo here on the same ground. And today, we are privileged to have his younger brother, one of the doyens, to perform the same function.
Paramount Chief of Laura and President of the Laura traditional area, Na Puwele Kabo III, therefore has the onerous duty to perform the enskinment rites, as was done close to 30 years ago by his predecessor, Na Abeifa Kabo II. It was therefore refreshing for the people of the area when kingmakers of Babile settled on 56-year-old educationist Na Dakwa, known in private life as Francis Kadwei Sapor, for the Babile skin for him to be guided through the rituals. Na Puwele Kabo III, after the enskinment, set the rules for the newly installed sub-chief as he begins his new life.
Suffice it to state that by your acceptance to be part of this noble institution, you have assumed a new personality, so to speak. As chiefs, you are to live exemplary lives worthy of emulation. Your conduct henceforth will be regulated. It is significant to note that some of the things you used to do as ordinary persons, like eating meat in the market, drinking in public places, etc., etc., you cannot do them again. Above all, you are expected to hold yourself out in dignity and not bring your name and the revered institution into disrepute at all times.
King Sub-Chief, as he begins his new life, aware of the challenges in the area, Napole Cabo III tasked the new chief to solve the challenges and work to partner government and other development partners to get the needed development for the area.
I can state without any fear of contradiction that there is a chief in every hamlet, village, town, and city in the country. And in most communities not touched by central government services, the chief's palace serves as the meeting place for the dissemination of government policies by visiting officials and a focal point for the mobilizing the people for development. This therefore means that your palace should be accessible to all people at all times. Furthermore, the role of the chief today is not to lead his people into war or organization for territory, but to lead your people in the path of socio-economic development. I wish to remind you, therefore, that the progress of your subdivisional area, its honors and reputation will materially depend on the scale and determination with which you manage its concerns and development challenges.
Also enskinned alongside Nada Kwa was the Queen Mother of the area under the skin name Pogna Yirkuda Kwa the First. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Babili.
Dear friends, it's a wrap for the news. Up next, we serve you the news review. Do stay. Oh, there you are. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. And there she is as well, Liz Hayfron Asari, media consultant. A very good morning to you, Liz.
Good morning.
Another beautiful one you have. I should find out whom your designer is, because now, dear, you're in a comfortable lead. You've taken the lead when it comes to, the fanciful dresses you don on the show. I should come see you. Or is your seamstress not unisex?
No, I don't think she is. My seamstress is my sister, so.
Shoot. Missed opportunity right there. But thank you for joining us this Tuesday morning. Before we get into the papers, though, another fire has ravaged the Opera Square area. And I just wanted to find out from you. I'm sure maybe you followed the news and you caught wind of that. Some matters of interest to me. One of the fire service officers spoke about how they exhausted the water that they had, and they had to go as far as Abelegbe and other areas just to refill their tanks. I mean, I don't know what it is, but sometimes it makes you want to tear your hair out when you hear of such situations. Some of the very basic things a state can do for its people. There's a fire. You can save some property. There are combustibles, but there's no water to deal with the situation. At the other side of the question I'm posing to you is, every year, markets are on fire. This is on fire. Commercial buildings. I'm at a loss for words, Liz. What do you think about all this?
It beats my mind also, and I'm wondering why in the whole of the Accra Central District we do not have water hydrants, because that is the quickest way any fire service can refill if they have hydrants around. So I'm wondering what happened to all the hydrants that were in that area. They didn't get any in that area. They didn't get any in Ridge, in Roman Ridge. They had to go all the way to Abelinke to be able to fill water. So then it means that there's something that we are not doing as a people. Watching the footage yesterday, I was wondering, why were the fire officers on the ground floor trying to put out fire on the first and second floors? Don't we have any ladders? So you see that they're just shooting the water up, hoping that the fire will go out, because they're not targeting where the fire is. They're just spraying water up into the building. And I'm wondering, don't we have ladders? If they climb the ladder, won't they be able to better and put out the fire and faster also? So there are a lot of questions begging answers. And I'm wondering why over all this time, fire service hasn't done its, should I say, recce to make sure that in those areas where it's possible that there'll be fires, because there have been fires in the past, they haven't stepped up their game to make sure that they can get water in that vicinity. And then they were complaining about access. And I'm like, still are we complaining about access to areas that we know is commercial, where there'll be fires, where... And then my next question, what time was it? Were there people at work? Do the buildings have fire extinguishers? I mean, what is the first call when it happens before you can even call the fire service? Was any attempt made? And all those are questions that are begging answers.
Questions begging answers. But here we are, another fire, and it has done its worst. Hopefully we shall learn the lessons. I don't know what kind of people we are, because everyone goes through circumstances and you learn lessons and you move on. In our case, the things keep happening and one cannot tell. From where I sit, for example, do we learn the lessons or not? Because we keep repeating the mistakes. We have the Odona area. I went there, I think, a year and a half ago to cover, an incident that had happened, a fire incident. You see it rebuilt, you look at certain things and you ask yourself, what has changed? What new regulations are there for those who are going to the market? We want to wait till the fire happens again. That Odona place, the market, it's not gone down once or twice. It's gone down on multiple occasions. Why do we have this in this country? It's really sad. Really, really, really sad.
Another interesting thing for me was the people who were standing by and just watching.
Right.
And you realize that in the past, it didn't used to be like that. At the moment there was a fire, people would get involved. But now everybody seems to be apathetic. We just stand and watch.
But I think it's also because people have been cautioned. You remember the Apiate incident and how some people, in trying to get closer, were the ones who actually got killed, a number of them. So I think it's also about public education. People are getting more conscious about the dangers of such situations, don't you?
And that's what I'm coming to, because fire service used to train voluntary firefighters. Right. Have they stopped? If they have, why? If they haven't, what are they doing to make sure that we have firefighters everywhere, voluntary firefighters everywhere, who know exactly what to do, when and where?
Interesting perspectives. Let's get into the Daily Dispatch newspaper list, shall we? And it says, if elections were held today, the MPP would get 145 of the 275 seats. That's the Director of Research at the presidency. This is interesting. It was on the back of an interaction with my colleague Raymond Aqua on Upfront. And some have said that this is a laughable perspective. But let me give you what the newspaper says. An assessment conducted by the Research Directorate at the presidency has revealed that former President John Mahama is likely to be retained as the flag bearer of the NDC for the 2024 general elections. This is contrary to the Economic Intelligence Unit's report that has urged the NDC to consider introducing a new candidate for the polls. Now, according to Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah, the research team engaged both NDC members and other non-NDC members for this exercise. As President Akufo-Addo concludes his final term in 2024, the opposition is expected to face off, but according to him, as has been mentioned, he believes that if elections were held, between the time of the interview till today, the NPP would garner some 145 seats, and you would also have the NDC taking the rest. He believes that per data from his office, the current situation of equal seats in Parliament would emphatically change, assuming elections were held now. The political fray. Liz, would you be drawn in? In recent times, we've seen reports from the EIU. I'm sure we've had reports from Global Info Analytics. And here we are with another, this time from the presidency, the director of research at the office of the president. With all of these coming in, what do you think it is? Is it political weighting or weighing? Is it the political game? And some of these that are not in the game, so to speak, they are research entities, think tanks. How do you feel about all these reports?
How do I feel?
What do you think?
I think that, well, coming from the research team at the presidency, you wouldn't expect them to say that they will lose. They definitely would paint a picture that they will win.
I'm with you on that one.
But on the ground, what are we seeing? You see a lot of discontent amongst the people. You hear people complaining day in, day out. The economic situation has not made it any better for anybody. So if he thinks that 145 of them would win, what is he looking at? What criteria is he using? Because when I go around the country, people are disgruntled day in, day out. People are complaining that things are not going well. And I think that the earlier they sit up, the earlier government sits up, the better for everybody. Because we are not only looking at the politics of it, the economics of it is very important. And if people are not satisfied with their way of life or the standard of living, they definitely would vote whoever is in government out, because they'll be looking for somebody who would make it better for them.
Let's check out some more stories. And there's this one on page 11. Let me just get there. 22,000 spare parts dealers to be relocated to West Africa Automotive Village at Afienya. They are being moved from Abosokai to the Afienya area in the Greater Accra region as part of the West Africa Automotive Village or Hub project. Now, according to the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Quartey, the move is part of the new face of Greater Accra region, in which the region will be transformed and modernized as an attractive destination in Africa. Any review of this, especially on the back of what we've seen from the Greater Accra Regional Minister? He relocated the onion sellers in Agbubulushi to where they are now. And here we are with another such initiative. And do you feel it will achieve the ends we're looking at, making Accra the cleanest city in Africa and also giving this facelift to the region?
With the facelift, yes, I think it would. But then again, you'd wonder what happens when the people are moved, because does it become an inconvenience to those who need spare parts on the spur of the moment? We know that Afienya is quite a distance. So if something happens to your car, you're going to travel all the way to Afienya to get a part to fix it. So I don't know if we have weighed it all around. If I think that the Abosokai area is congested. I think that it is an eyesore. Sometimes when you go there and you see the way they've just displayed the parts on the road and caused a lot of mess in that area. And if you're looking to cleaning the city and making it attractive, then it is a good thing. But couldn't there be another place that is probably closer, because I'm not looking at those who are upscale who will take their cars to all the posh maintenance centers. You're looking at those who probably want a quick fix for something and don't have that kind of money. Will they be willing to travel all the way to Afinia to do so? So I don't know. I don't know what has happened, and I haven't followed it closely, so I cannot tell. But I believe that in doing something like this, you should be considering the masses, even as you work towards cleaning up the city.
Let's get into the Finder newspaper now. Quite a number of stories to look at. Malaria wipes out 6% of Ghana's GDP. That's according to Dr. Malm. Malaria. And there have been calls from the Ghana Medical Laboratory Scientist Group, for example, to introduce the malaria vaccines into the system. PRC resolves 97% of complaints, recovers 6.3 million Ghana cedis in 2021. There is Lands Ministry receives a report on Bulgarian embassy land case, and I'm sure you remember that one. We've spoken about it before. And another major story there, Ghana Water Company Limited posts 938.83 million, not profit, net loss in 2020. It's a 64.17% reduction from the 2.6 billion Ghana cedi loss in 2019. So even better, but still terrible. Company's liquidity position remains precarious. But let's bring you some details of those stories. But I'll start with this one. I'm sure it will interest you, Liz. Open Day for the Girls in ICT launched. And the Open Day for the Girls in ICT initiative, organized by the Ministry for Communications and Digitalization, has duly been launched to provide girls with opportunities in the ICT industry. About 80 girls who are drawn from schools in the Central, Oti, Western, North, and Northeast regions will be attached to ICT-based institutions or companies. The girls will enjoy a week-long interaction with great achievers in the ICT industry. Of course, we've been hearing from the sector minister, Ursula Wusu-Ekufo, on this beat. How excited are you by this development, and what would you like to see, Alice?
In ICT, yes, a lot more girls, a lot more ladies in there. I believe that it is time that we get technological and electronically educated. And since that is the way we are going now, using computers and all like that, technology is upscale. It's good to have girls in there. It's good to let girls know that they can succeed if they put their mind to it. A lot of girls shy away from sciences and shy away from technology because they think it's difficult. But I believe that if they start early, and this, I believe, is one such intervention to make sure that girls are able to integrate into sectors that they would normally not want to go into. It is a good thing. I still struggle with technology sometimes, even when I'm working on my computer. And I believe that in the future, it will be something that all girls would need to work with. They probably won't be in a position where they can get people to work for them, so they'd have to be able to do it themselves. Sometimes I shudder to think that if I should travel out and I do not have my sons around me to help me with my computer, then what happens? So I think it's in a good direction. I believe that it should not only be for certain girls, because normally when we look at these things, we pick those in the bracket where we'll call in the advanced schools, the A schools. We should look across board and even try and pick people from the remote areas. You think that when they go back, they won't have the electricity and things to work with, but at least if they have the knowledge, with the knowledge, they'll be able to do a lot, especially in the remote areas, and that is a good thing.
Let's check out this other story, which has to do with malaria and what impact it is having on our country. Dr. Kezia Malm, I think I saw her walking around here, our premises, sometime yesterday. But she is with the Malaria Control Program, or the program manager for the National Malaria Control Program, says malaria tops in disease expenditure under the National Health Insurance Scheme. And she says the disease also reduces the Ghanaian GDP by 0.25% to as high as 6%, adding that malaria was still the #1 cause of outpatient attendance in health facilities and affected millions of people. She was speaking at the commemoration of the 2022 World Malaria Day in Hohoi on the theme Advance Equity, Build Resilience, and Malaria. I always reference this when malaria comes up, though a place like Cuba has its own problems with dengue fever, Zika, among others. But they have successfully eradicated malaria. In this day and age, we're talking about vaccines as well. And there has been the push, like I was intimating earlier, for these vaccines to be more general so that people can, even the young ones, can develop some resistance, better resistance to malaria. But especially considering that it wipes out up to about 6% of our GDP, shouldn't this be like a major program for our governments? What do you think?
It should be a priority. I believe that they've worked on malaria for years. I wonder why it's
decades
ravishing our economy the way it is. I believe that maybe it has a lot to do with us as a people. Sanitation is still very poor. We have all kinds of breeding grounds for the mosquito. And then people wait till it's very late to seek redress. We like doing a lot of self-medication. You have a headache, you're running a temperature, and we go first for self-medication instead of going to the hospital to make sure that it's not malaria. And the thing is that with malaria, it definitely is the mosquito. It's not something that is passed on from person to person. So we need to be more attentive to our surroundings, to our environment, and that we are not doing very well with. You go and you realize that there's stagnant water in places, there's bush where the mosquitoes can breed, and nothing is being done. And once one person is bitten, one person with malaria is bitten, it carries on. So there's a lot more we need to do. There's a lot of education that needs to go on. We have educated, but still we don't seem to be able to nip are falling ill and are getting malaria in the bud. We are always struggling with it. And I think that there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And I think that since it's affecting our GDP, the government should be up and doing. We shouldn't relent. Like you're saying, Cuba has been able to eradicate it. Why haven't we worked on it so that it's at the barest minimum? I believe we can do so. It has been done before. So let's go back to doing the things that we were doing that was making sure that especially the children, you have children under 5, and a lot of them ending up with malaria, and some of them even losing their lives. So why aren't we paying a lot of attention to that?
Right.
And making sure that the people are healthy? Because if a majority of the people fall ill, if the majority of the people have malaria, then definitely your production is going to come down. And those skilled workers that you need probably won't be at post. So it will definitely affect our GDP.
Well, tied to that, RTS-S malaria vaccine not to wipe off other interventions. That's according to the Kintampo Health Research Center, basically to say that even as we introduce these vaccines, hopefully on a more large scale, or on a larger scale, we would also not forget about the other interventions. But to wrap in the Finder newspaper, that story about the 2020 State Ownership Report, which we've been putting out there, and the Ghana Water Company Limited has posted a 938.83 million net loss in 2020. When you have state-owned enterprises performing like this, most of them in dire straits, though the 2020 performance is better than its 2019 performance in terms of liabilities, we still have a long way to go, Liz. Quite a long way to go.
Water has become expensive. I And you can understand that it will go that way because the purification process has also become expensive. So if you want pipe-borne water, you have to be paying more for it. But then there are a lot more illegal connections. People will want to get water for free. People will want to do all kinds of things to make sure that they have water. I remember some time ago talking to some people who work with the Ghana Water and Sewage, then now Ghana Water Company Limited, and you realize that their collection process for people who have used the water, and you send out bills and they do not pay, they're not willing to come up front to pay. So you have certain households that owe so much, especially when you go to compound houses, and it's difficult to collect the monies. And they were trying to find out how they could do it. Disconnecting the taps in the houses does not result in you getting your money for what you've done. So they probably have to come up with more creative ways of getting the water. I think Electricity Corporation tried also doing something like that, and that's when they came up with a prepaid. But are we going to do prepaid for water? How will that work? Has anybody been able to do any feasibility to see how that will work? If you're not able to get people to pay for water that they have used, then you definitely will be producing at a loss.
Let's wrap with the papers from the Daily Guide newspaper. Fresh application for ex-Maslock boss. Sureties and the AG is pursuing that with fresh developments there, pictured there, Sedinam, Tamaklo. There's also government won't compromise Etiwa Forest, pictured there, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapo. But that study that we've been speaking about, that's the banner headline, NPP to win 2024 with slim margin, research. But it would be poignant, the paper, again, I have my issues with some of the papers. It says research, but we all know it is research from the NPP's end. If it were to come from the NDC's end, we would also say it. This is NPP research, pointing to an NPP victory, not news. I have not had an erection since, and that is an interesting bit there. You would find this one curious, Liz. Suspended Ghanaian referee Kenny Paddy says he has not had an erection since officiating in the Super Clash game between Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak in the Week 24 fixture. He awarded a penalty that was deemed controversial, though some referees have come out to say it was fair and square, a penalty. But the interesting bit is that he is claiming he's not had, an erection since that time. Interesting development.
What has that got to do with football?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes there's all this bit about, I'm just reading into it. There's all this bit about juju and all kinds of things that people claim to. So who knows? Who knows what it could be? But that is his claim. He says he's not had one since the Super Clash. God help him in that regard.
And what have the doctors said?
Not anything that, for now, we can report. But we'll see what the doctors will also say and whether there's any link at all with it. But to wrap on the international front, page 5 of the Daily Guide newspaper, judge holds Trump in contempt over documents in New York AG's inquiry. Beijing kicks off mass testing after COVID spike. We all know what is happening there. Russia announces expulsion of 40 German diplomats. And of course, Germany had initially expelled 40 Russian diplomats. So it's a tit for tat in international or diplomatic circles. And then mass burials planned for Nigeria oil blast victims. Very sad development there. About 100 people dead. And this was an illegal enterprise that they were undergoing. There are pockets of them in Nigeria, and it is difficult to find out where the operations are. They siphon, the oil from the major tanks and all of that, and then they do their own thing, but very dangerous enterprises. So that's the final bit there. I don't know whether you have a final take on that bit, the Nigerian incident. So sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, and it reminds me. So their galamsey is with oil.
Yeah.
Our galamsey is for gold, and there's always a risk attached to it. But they're willing to take the risk for the little money that they can get. and these things would happen. The blast, I'm not too sure what caused it. It could either be from too much heat from the sun, or the fact that people themselves around there were not being careful enough and could cause any amount of damage. But it's very unfortunate because oil is very combustible, so a little fire spark would just cause the whole thing to inflame, and it would engulf all of them. Yeah. It's a pity. I mean, we should learn as a people to do things right, but we always want a quick and a fast way out, and it always costs us our lives.
President Buhari has described it as a national disaster, and we all agree. And we commiserate with our brother and sister Nigerians on that unfortunate incident as well. On that note, a big thank you, Liz, for joining us for another Tuesday morning.
Thank you.
Do have a good day. Up next on the AM show, we serve you sports. Do stay. So here we are as we get into our big stories, laying the foundation with that report that you just saw. It's actually one of our latest Hotline documentaries. So 90% of the local producers or processors of soya bean have actually gone out of business. It has led to the collapse of thousands of jobs, or should I say the loss of that number of jobs. It's also interesting as we commence the conversation to paint the picture that soya bean is crucial to our national life. Many of us may not know, but it is consumed by humans. We use it sometimes in food for babies and others. It is used in animal feed industrially. It is used for paints, among others, and even as biodiesel. That's how important soya bean is. Well, this morning, joining the conversation, we're going to engage some industry players on what the latest shortage means to us. Kwesi Nyamiche, a CEO of Vesta Oil Mills. He joins us via Zoom. A quick check with Kwesi Nyamiche. Mr. Nyamiche, a very good morning to you. Can you hear me? All right, so we'll get him shortly. But we also have in the studio Gideon Abuaji, who is with Dragon Farming Limited. Dragon Farming Limited. Thank you, Mr. Abuaji, for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
So let's start from right here. And let me just let our viewers know that we're also going to try to get interactive with some players from the powers that be. Let me just leave it at that, so they can also respond to some of what we're going to discuss here. But when it comes to soya bean, access to it's become topical now. So I'd like to premise the conversation from your entity, Dragon Farming Limited. How long have you been in the business, the soya bean business?
We've been in business for the last 22 years.
22 years?
Yes.
What exactly do you do with soya bean? I see you here with some products. Are these derivatives or something? I see some of the beans as well.
Yeah, so this is the raw soya bean, as you can see it.
Right.
Yeah, this is the raw soya bean.
Okay.
We take it through processes.
Right.
And then based on the technology that you are using, you either come out with this plus this.
So what is this that you're showing?
This is what we call soybean meal.
Soybean meal.
Solvent extracted soybean meal.
Right.
Right. This is the chemical processes.
Right.
And then when you use the mechanical system, then you end up with this, which is also called soybean meal.
So it's you can see that this is finer than that one.
Yes.
Right.
But this is mechanical. There's no chemical used. Okay. And then you get oil. This is the first stage of the soya oil that it's used in household for cooking and all that. This is the crude stage of it. Right. And then this go through further processing, and then you get your vegetable oil or any other derivatives.
Like the biodiesel that I spoke of.
Like the biodiesel.
Or high performance fuels. It all comes from this stage. So that's the initial stage.
Exactly. And also lecithin and also gels that are used in pharmaceutical industry.
So let me just hold this to the camera. This is what it looks like. I'm sure you'd like to get a feel. So this is the initial
the first stage of the soy oil.
Right. Okay, so we have quite a number of these products, and these are the derivatives we see there as well. But let's talk about what is happening in the industry now. I want you to paint the picture for us, because I've heard so many things from different quarters.
Right.
So what is it now? Is it the fact that there is a shortage of soya bean? Or is it that it is there in large quantities, but you who need them for industrial purposes simply cannot afford them? Where do we stand?
The problem is in two folds. Currently, it is not available, and so we are not able to aggregate the volumes that we need to keep our production at optimum levels to make margins.
When you say it is not available, is it that it's off season? Is it that the farmers are hoarding them? What is it? Or simply that you cannot afford them?
What has happened is that at the beginning of the season, which starts from November, we had people coming in from other places, and especially Indians, going onto the market and mopping almost everything. What mostly happened in the conventional year after the harvesting season is that at the beginning of the harvesting, there is a lot of raw material. When we say raw material, we mean soybean,
right,
which is our primary product that we use for our production. There is enough on the market, and so you are able to mobilize enough for storage and also to keep your production going. We deal with machines, and so you need to have raw materials to feed the machine regularly to make them efficient, and also to be able to be profitable in terms of production. What has happened is that most of the volumes that should have been around to assist us to keep our production has all been mobbed up by foreigners.
So it's dwindling.
It's already exported.
All right. So tell me,
there's none in there for us to aggregate. The little that is there, it means that you have to go onto the market, aggregate for so many weeks, get the volumes that is you can use it for production before you can switch your machines on to produce.
So it's a Herculean process, first of all, getting access to the soya bean, which is your raw material.
Yes.
This is also impacting your machines, because they need to be in constant operation to be able to maximize their capacity or potential.
Right.
And it also means that the production time, what you would have used to produce at a go, you have to wait maybe weeks now just to aggregate.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to.
Exactly.
Am I getting
or you
it correct?
scale down your volumes in terms of your
Production.
capacity. So let's say if you have 100-ton capacity a day, and you are not able to aggregate the volumes that you need to keep that entire capacity in production, then you have to scale back and use a lower capacity, which makes you completely unproductive, and also you make a lot of losses.
Tell me, before these challenges started, I don't know for how long you've been facing these challenges, you can tell me, but what was your capacity then, and what is your capacity now? Or have you totally shut down? Break it down for me.
Okay, so when you take my case, we had about 85 metric tons a day processing capacity. Currently, we're doing less than 20 metric tons.
So 80 what, 9?
85 metric tons, and the metric ton is 1,000 kilos. So you just times it by 85. And then maybe if you want to understand.
So that was 85,000 kilos.
85,000 kilos.
And now you're producing what?
Now we are producing just about 20,000 kilos a day. And we have to scale back with workers of about 120 to less than 40 now. And
so 80 jobs have been lost
already.
Just from Dragon Farms Limited?
Yes.
Wow. I mean, what does this really mean for business?
What it means is that, one, we are piling up debt, and two, we've been made weaker as industrialists and as entrepreneurs, because if you invest over $4-5 million to establish a plant for soya processing, and they sit idle for 5, 6, 7 months, and even at the times that you are using the machines, you are scaling down on your capacity. All that it means is that you either piling up debt, or you're not going to make any headway in terms of what your vision is.
So that's about how much you invested in this? 4, 5, 6 million?
Yes.
I mean, you together with maybe your partners. This is what you pumped into the venture. Wow. And you say, how long have you been in operation again?
22 years.
22 years?
Yes.
And of course, every year you have to, work on your machines.
Yes.
There'll be all of that done. And then all of a sudden, you can't even
get the raw materials.
Get the raw material.
And like we keep on saying, the total installed capacity in this country is sufficient to process all the soya beans we produce in Ghana.
For those who need them for poultry feed and other feed, for human consumption,
exactly,
for maybe industrial purposes. You're saying that in your industry, those of you in there have the capacity to do that.
Exactly. What we produce locally is about 170,000. And we have installed capacity of over 200,000.
Wow.
And Ghana is importing over 350,000 metric tons of the finished product onto the Ghanaian market.
You're telling me we're importing about 350,000 tons?
Exactly.
So what this means is that if we boosted our local capacity, which you guys are getting up to meet, we could stop basically at some point importing this and just getting off local production, right?
Okay.
That's what you're saying.
Let me give you the real figure.
Because there's a disparity in there. That's what I'm trying to understand.
350,000 metric tons is about $160 million.
Wow.
What we can process locally is about $120 million.
So it leaves a gap of about
just 40 million, which then we can decide to import to cover up. But what is happening now is that capacity of about $120 million of machinery that we have sitting, it's virtually doing nothing, and rather we are importing the finished products. And what we are doing is to allow foreigners to come onto our market. They don't go onto the commodity exchange to go and get the products there. They go into the farm gate, and so all the guys within the value chain, the aggregators, almost everybody is cut out. And that is how serious this issue is. And if this thing is not properly addressed, what is going to happen is that very soon, egg prices will even escalate more than what the poultry farmers
they've increased recently.
Have already told us.
Yeah, they've increased recently.
Do you get it?
Increased.
Because the world market in terms of commodity is having its own challenges. And so most of the countries have stopped the exportation of commodities from their countries.
Of course, makes sense. They are keeping them for their own population.
Burkina Faso, Togo, you cannot take anything out. And so it baffles us as we are just allowing people to come in. They don't go through any system. They just go to the marketplace and buy product and export it.
Okay.
They pay nothing.
So tell me, even before we get into the full processes of what has usually happened and what has changed currently, in other jurisdictions, and I'm sure you engage, farmers from, or at least those in your industry in other countries, especially West Africa. What applies, say, in Nigeria, in Burkina Faso, and the rest, that is different from what we're doing here?
They have agencies that people have to go through. You don't just go onto...
That is the foreigners.
The foreigners.
There's an agency you have to go through the agency.
If you go outside, you cannot trade directly with the farmer. You have to go through his broker, who then determines how much the farmer wants to sell and how much you are prepared to pay. And then at the point you agree on something, and then you have a sale. But it mostly has to go through the commodity exchange.
Right.
But in West Africa, yes, you have to. There are associations and agencies like Nigeria and other places that you have to go through before you are able to even buy products. But what happens here in Ghana is that people go onto our market, they buy soya, they buy maize, and they take them away at any price.
There are no real processes. There are no intermediary processes to regulate, because that's what the feeling I'm getting then. There are no intermediary processes to regulate pricing.
Yes. And, because of this situation, we had worked very hard to get the Ghana Commodity Exchange established.
Right.
So that it plays that intermediary role to make sure that prices are controlled in a way that it benefits the buyer and also the seller. Unfortunately, I don't know
what happened to it, the Ghana Commodity Exchange. What happened?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know?
Yes, I don't.
I'm curious. So we had these mechanisms working in the past, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
How did it operate in the past? Tell me how it was working.
Okay, on two fronts. Before the commodity exchange came in, what we do is that you have different levels of aggregators. You have the women who go into the villages to mobilize Olonka, 1 Olonka, 2 Olonka, and get them into bags, 5, 6 bags. And then there is another intermediary who takes it over and then aggregate it maybe 5, 10, 15 to maybe 100. He then gives it over to a bigger aggregator who had maybe 10 or 20 of these small aggregators. Then he is able to load maybe a truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks, depending on the demands that they have. Then they supply to the processing factories. Those who also have the capacity to store, then they store those products and release it onto the market gradually. So you can see in the years past, prices do escalate, but it is done in a way that everybody within the system is comfortable.
Right.
All right. But what is happening now is that even at the peak of harvest, where there is sufficient products on the market,
where pricing should be low,
prices should be low. Prices are high.
So before I move on to Mr. Nyameche, who has also joined the conversation, averagely, how much were you paying before for maybe a kilo of soya bean?
Right.
And how much are you paying now, even if you get access to it?
At the beginning of the season, which was just on November, we were paying 300, 330, maximum 350. Now we are paying
for what? For a bag?
100 kilo bag.
100 kilo bag.
100 kilo bag was about 300, 330, maximum 350. In less than 4 months, we're paying almost 600 cedis. That is how serious.
That's almost 100% increase.
And which industry operates in this kind of extremely unregulated system?
Don't you think it has to do with, the prevailing circumstances around the world? We're dealing with a pandemic. We're also dealing with the Russia-Ukraine situation. Don't you feel maybe that is also part of the problem?
Yes, but we have spent almost 800 million Ghana cedis in supporting planting for food and jobs. Our taxes, you and I, our taxes, is what did that job. And so if there are crises across the world on commodity front, and we have our own domestic capacity, do we look for people outside and support them by allowing them to take what our own taxes had supported to produce? Or we look inward and solve our own problems?
So just finally for now, has planting for food and jobs failed in specific respect of maybe soya bean production? I don't know whether you know about maize, but for soya bean production, has it failed in this respect?
It hasn't, because production has increased. From the time the policy came into effect, production has increased. But what has happened is that benefit is not trickling down to the industries within that value chain that needs to take advantage of the increases that we've had in terms of production.
So we're just fueling other economies and leaving our own. But let me also bring in Kwesi Nyameche, who is CEO of Vesta Oil. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Nyameche, a very good morning to you, sir. Mr. Nyameche, if you can hear me, you might have to unmute. That is, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning, sir, and thanks for having me.
Great. It's a pleasure having you. Vesta Oil Mills, how long have you been in the system? How long have you been in production?
Since 2006.
I missed that. If you could repeat it again. The network is a bit unstable. All right, so we'll try to work on the connection with Mr. Nyameche. Mr. Nyameche, if you can hear me now, just give me an answer concerning how long you've been in operation, Vesta Oil Mills.
Vesta has been around since 2004.
2004.
And we started doing soya from 2006. So we've been around since 2004.
Okay. And tell me, what is different now from what we've seen over the years when it comes to access to soya bean, the raw material for your production? Maybe before you get into that, what exactly do you produce? So is it just the oil, soya oil, or do you have other derivatives from soya that you process?
I do, as my colleague at the studio has said. We basically extract oil from the soybeans. I have a refinery, so I add value to even the crude soya oil that we process and get it into edibles and sell it in the market. And then the soy meal we sell to poultry and livestock for them to use in making poultry feed and fish feed.
All right, so
that's what we do. Soya basically had...
Go ahead, Mr. Nyamicha, I'm listening. Okay. Mr. Nyamicha, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yes, just go ahead. You were making a point. Go ahead.
No, I said soya basically has two products. So we get a meal and the oil. And I go further to add value to my oil. I have a 20-ton a day refinery. So I refine my oil and I sell the oil as edibles in the market.
Okay. So this is what you do. You even go ahead to add some value to it. How much would you quantify your investment into this business? Can you give us a fair idea how much you've pumped into this business?
Roughly, I've invested about 4.5 million in both in equity and debt.
Right. So it feeds into what Mr. Abaji was telling me earlier, between some 4 to 6 million. Vesta Oil Mills, are you still working? Are you still in operation?
As I speak to you right now, my workers are at home. We are down. We don't have enough, and my plant is so big that if you have even 1,000 bags and you start a plant, it's just one day and everything. 1,000 bags is about 100 tons. It's just one day and everything is finished. So we can't, and the chemical process start and stop. So we just have to wait till we have enough then before we can start. So for the past 2 weeks now, my workers are at home.
Mr. Nyamicha, just hold for me because we have the Deputy Minister for Agriculture, Yaw Adofrimpong, joining us, and he will give us some answers to questions that you have. Mr. Frimpong, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, sir.
Hi, good morning.
It's a pleasure having you. I'm sure it has come to your notice that, yes, maize, but soya bean as well, supposedly is in short supply, which is interesting because we've been told time and again that our production of raw materials like soya bean is on the increase. Do tell me, what is the reality? Are we producing more soya bean? And if we are, why are industry players in Ghana unable to access it?
Yeah, thank you so much. And my greetings to listeners. I don't know how to answer this question because as far as our records are concerned, we have increased production from 20 of soya bean from 2017 up to 2021.
Mr. Frimpong, if you could just speak up for me, I'm losing you intermittently.
Okay. I think I'm driving, but if you can hear me now.
Did you just say you were driving?
Yes. I'm on my way to a program.
Okay, so I would appreciate it for your own safety, if you could just park and interact with us.
I'm using earpiece, so I'm safe. I mean, if you can hear me, I'm using earpiece, so I'm safe.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. So do go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Frimpong. Do go ahead. Go ahead with the point you were making.
Yes, I was saying that in the past 5 years, we have been increasing production of soya bean steadily. From a certain level, we picked it in 2017 to 2021. But I must also admit that we have not gotten to the level that we will say we are self-sufficient in soybean production.
Okay.
Therefore, naturally, yes, I listened to a little bit of what my brother on the other line was saying.
Right.
And it is true that there are shortfalls. And it is affecting the processes, especially. And it's all there are factors that account for that. And I would not stand anywhere to challenge anybody who says that the church shut. Because he is a processor, and just like others, there are other processors who are also facing similar problems.
Okay.
There is an ally that has the expectation of soya bean from this country. Until you get some clearance from the ministry, a permit from the ministry before you can go ahead to export.
Okay.
Several of such exporters who got their soya bean directly from the farmers wanted permit to export certain quantities.
So just to get you clearly, because the line is a bit tricky, there is an ally when it comes to exporting soya bean, and you're saying that some local producers wanted to get access to certification so they can export. Is that what you're saying?
Some exporters, yes, they are certified exporters.
Okay.
That when it is justified that you need to meet certain contractual obligations from people outside, from your partners outside, the ministry can, in such circumstances, give you a permit to export. And there are a few exporters here who have been allowed to export not more than 5,000 metric tons.
Okay, and these are Ghanaians. These are Ghanaians.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. I don't have that sheet of paper on me right now, but I know of some of such companies that applied for the permit to export. Some wanted to export 10,000, but the minister did not agree to that, so they were allowed to export 5,000.
So it is clear that we have the sufficiency from what you're saying, and you were mentioning data from 2017. So if we do, how is it that local producers or local processors of soya bean cannot have access to the product? They have made mention of the fact that foreigners, especially Indians, come into the country and they don't go through the Ghana Commodities Exchange. Somehow they are granted access, so they come in, they go directly to the farms, negotiate with the farmers and buy from them. Are you aware of this situation?
No, I'm not aware of that, because every company that the ministry deals with is known by the ministry, so they cannot be strangers. You understand? Every ministry, every exporter that deals in soya bean.
You're saying that all of these people that are being referenced by, and this is not just Mr. Abuaje or Mr. Nyameche. The interactions we've had earlier with farmers, all of them are saying, or not farmers, but the processors are saying that they are being crowded out because foreigners, especially Indians, are coming into the country, going to the farmers to buy from them. You know, that will hike the prices up. So the local processors can't afford the product.
You know why we all need to be dialoguing over increased production. You see, because I'm speaking with you, I'm a farmer, and if I buy my inputs from the open market and I get my produce and I get a buyer, the government can say, look, you can sell up to this limit. But the government cannot say that you will not allow me to sell to people at all, because I need good price so that I'll be encouraged and motivated to go onto the land in the coming years.
But you also admit, Mr. Frimpong, that without the proper regulation, our local processors will not be able to compete. Some of those coming in from other countries may have economies of scale to their advantage, or they may feel that because they are coming to buy and sell to the foreign market, they will get more no matter what. So they can afford to buy it. If local farmers are buying it for 6 cedis, they can afford to pay 10 cedis and still make their profit.
I agree with you. And I do sympathize with local businesses. We need to build their capacities so they can also compete adequately. But in the meantime, you see, we are talking about a demand and supply situation. For now, we are talking about demand and supply situation. The only thing the government can do is to use that LI and strictly in this time that we did not get the quantities that we should be getting, because as I indicated earlier, we are not there yet that we should have surplus. You see, and last year, for example, the weather was not too friendly, and the inputs and fertilizers also delayed. So it affected the production level. And that is what I'm talking about. But that does not mean that the farmer who struggled to produce must also be short-changed. But we need to balance the situation so that our processors will have the produce to also process for our poultry farmers. It is a situation that you don't need to even argue, but you need to just dialogue over it and find solutions. For me,
so Mr. Frimpong, I'm just curious. How do we balance the situation? How do we perform that balancing act? The soya bean is integral in poultry feed. Egg products and poultry products prices are going up on the back of the lack of access to soya bean. You also look at the farmers, and they are saying that they have capacity to produce to almost satisfy our local need. In fact, Mr. Abuaje, who's here in the studio, said that they are producing, is it 120,000 tons, did you say?
Yeah, we are producing about 85 tons a day.
Okay, so I mean, generally,
you mentioned our association can produce about 200,000 metric tons.
Per year?
Per year.
And you said that in general, what we need as a country is what?
It's about 350,000 metric tons.
Okay, so more than half of it can be produced by our people.
1,000. As of 2021, we did, as of September that we collected the data, we did 221,000 metric tons.
Right.
You understand? So still there will be that shortfall. And therefore, all we need to do is to encourage a lot more of farmers to produce more. You know, so we cannot, you see, until we all are determined to produce, to encourage our farmers to produce more, such kind of situation will occur every year. And gradually, as I indicated, we have been increasing production from a low level to that the 61,000 I spoke about earlier. So let us all together with the farmers, the aggregators, the processors, we should all come together to find lasting solutions, because soybean does so well in the Savannah belt, and we have the land. So we just have to encourage ourselves, encourage our farmers, and my brother on the line. You don't have to go into some of these the production of the soya, and I think this problem is not something that we can solve together. I mean, with time, we can solve these problems.
With time, in the interim, we're told about 90% of these processing plants, are folding up. In fact, Mr. Abuaje here in the studio tells me that his workers have been slashed. How many were they again?
Yeah, they were about 120. Now we're doing about 40.
Okay, so in just his plant, Dragon Farming Limited, 120 workers. Now there are only 40. Jobs are being lost. Money is being lost per day. And just consider this. He says as of November, they were buying at the highest 100 kilo bag of soya bean for 350 at the highest. Now they're paying 600 cedis for it. Is that sustainable?
In fact, with the price in right now, if you go to the international market, they can't even get it at number. Soya bean is such high demand. And when we don't have the quantities that will bring the price down, naturally, the price will go up. It's such high demand everywhere in the world. So, as I indicated, I sympathize with our processing. But that's not to say that we should throw our arms in the air in despair. We should encourage ourselves. I mean, we are going to the planting season. We should encourage ourselves to go and do more. The ministry is taking delivery of some agri mechanization equipment, and hopefully, we are going to expand a lot of such production levels in the savannah areas, and maybe next year we will be singing a different song.
Mr. Frimpong, so right before you take leave of us, I just to clarify, so your suggestion is that the solution is for them to encourage themselves. In the meantime, a lot of them are not producing. The machines they use must be in constant operation to get full capacity. They are losing a lot of money. This is equipment worth, millions of dollars, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million. You're saying that in the interim, they should encourage themselves. What measures will be put in place so that maybe by end of year, we can see some real changes for those in that industry?
Yes, I just mentioned about the ministry taking delivery of agri mechanization equipment right now for distribution to the areas that we need them most. And we are going to distribute this to the areas. And therefore, I am of high hope that production is going to go up. And once production goes up in the regions that produce lots of soya beans, maybe just as I said, we'll be singing the different song come next year around the same time. We have to increase production. There's no other way. We have to increase production because on the international market, the price is so high. So we need to look inward and produce more here. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Frimpong, we're really grateful that regardless of everything, you've made the time to speak to us this morning. Thank you so much, sir.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
All right. And that is Yawado Frimpong, Deputy Minister for Agriculture. Mr. Nyamiche, you've heard what Mr. Frimpong has said. He says you should encourage yourselves and that they'll put in place the right mechanism so that by this time next year, you will not be where you are now. Is that comfort enough for you? If Mr. Nyamiche can hear me. If not, I'll come into the studio. Mr. Nyamiche, so I'm just asking, you've heard the Deputy Minister for Agri. He says, encourage yourselves, first of all, and that government will put in place the right mechanisms to shore up soya bean production. And that come this time next year, we will not find ourselves where we are. Is that comfort enough for you?
I wouldn't say it's enough. I listened to him carefully. I'm part of the committee.
All right, let me come into the studio. I'm putting that same question to you. Have you taken, a lot of comfort from what the Deputy Minister just said?
No.
Why not?
Because we've been warning them for the last 3 years about this.
So it's a trend?
Yes. And it's sad that we are asked to comfort ourselves. So we'll comfort ourselves.
He says you should encourage yourselves.
We should encourage ourselves.
Yes.
So we'll encourage ourselves.
And we should increase production.
Yeah. We need to increase production. But if the Indian government spends $120 million in supporting the program for soya bean production to increase in their country, if they will allow Ghanaians or Ghanaian aggregators to go there and pick the products, it's a bit pathetic sometimes when some of these things are heard from our leaders. It's very sad.
So you're not taking any encouragement from this?
No, I'm not. Because we've been warning them. For the last 3 years, we've been warning them that this is the problem we're likely to have. And look at what is happening in the whole industry. Now, we buy next almost a cedi per egg, and it's likely to go up. And we've been asked to encourage ourselves. So we encourage ourselves.
How will you encourage yourself? You seem to be speaking sarcastically. So how will you encourage yourself?
I'll go to my factory, look at my machines lying idle. I'm very emotional. You see, we can't continue like this in this country. All right? We can't continue like this in this country. When people spend money to put up systems to help in creating employment, and then we have people just telling us that we should encourage ourselves just because something that somebody could have done refused to do it and is causing all these problems today. It looks like we always look at satisfying foreigners against Ghanaians, and that is wrong. That is completely wrong, and it has to stop. We won't spend our taxes in supporting a flagship program, and then when the benefit comes, we allow foreigners to take it. And then we are being asked to encourage ourselves.
The Deputy Minister does not agree. He says these foreigners are not failing to go through the GCE, the Ghana Commodities Exchange. He doesn't agree that they're going directly to the farmers. You heard him. I am telling you, my colleague on the phone was telling you, the documentary you showed, the lady was telling you. So if the Deputy Minister is saying all of us are lying, that is fine. I'm not here to do personal attacks. I'm just here to help support the poultry industry in Ghana, to support the soya processing in Ghana. That is my sole obligation. My final bit to you, and maybe if Mr. Nyamicha is on, I'll just wrap with him as well. So you're still in business. Have you folded up? You say you have about 40 on the ground. Are you still processing?
In the next 30 days, I'll be going out.
In the next 30 days?
Yes.
You'll be folding up?
Yep.
Because of a lack of raw material?
Yep.
Mr. Abaji, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Just stay with me. Do we have Mr. Nyamicha still with us? Mr. Nyamicha, so you heard very quickly, it appears we've lost Mr. Nyamicha again. Well, those who joined us on this conversation, and it is quite a situation. Gideon Abwaji is with Dragon Farming Limited. We also had Mr. Kwesi Nyamicha, CEO of Vesta Oil Mill, and the Deputy Agric Minister, Yao Ado Frimpong. I'm sure we'll come back to this at some other point. But coming up next, we have the CPP. They're back in the studio. It's about another interdicted executive, Nanaya Jantua. She will join us later, but right after the break when we return, it's all about the NSMQ, National Science and Math Quiz. Do stay with us. Welcome back on the AM show. Last year, Prempeh glorified God. And it's all about the tears, the laughter, and all the action at the NSMQ. It's another season of the exciting NSMQ. We asked who gets the bragging rights this year, but we know of the processes that must be followed. And that's why this morning we have joining us in the studio, Nanekia Ankomasari, Managing Director of Prime Time. Nanekia, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're always wearing that beautiful smile.
Thank you.
Okay. So another season of the NSMQ is here. You've been at this for how long? I guess each time I ask you, about what, 3 decades?
Yes, almost. Since 93. We had a 2-year break in 2010 and 2011, but otherwise every year it's happened.
Okay. So what is the latest when it comes to the NSMQ? I mean, on the back of what happened the last time, I was just sharing with you how excited I am about Ketasco's Francisca Lamini and the feats she's achieving. Yeah. What's the latest you can share before we move on?
Well, we are.
They've been in
everybody
Dubai,
is
right?
yes. Everybody's in school now because school's begun. But they just came back from Dubai, the trip that we promised them. So Kenya, it couldn't happen earlier on because of COVID restrictions, but I think they had a good time. And they learned a lot of things because they went to different places, the Science Museum and all that. And I know there was a story going around that they couldn't answer a question on, putting together the anatomy, the stomach. I think,
right, right.
It was because of the time. They were asked to do it within 15 seconds. And even though they got some right, they were not able to assemble everything within that short time. Right. But when they were allowed to do it at their own pace, they all did it within 50 to 70 seconds, which is still about a minute.
Just about a minute?
Yes.
Okay. So we're there, but maybe we can still get a few things right. But that brings to mind an interesting question. People have often said, the NSMQ, great, but what has been its impact, especially when we look at STEM, not STEAM. When you take the arts out, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Over these 3 decades, what have you seen to be the impact of the NSMQ on that space?
It's been everywhere. You know, when something has grown on you and you've grown over the decades with it, you don't realize how big it has been in your life until it's taken out of it. What we set out to do was to demystify science and make it accessible to everybody, to let everybody understand that science was not restricted to strange people with, with superpowers,
that like, people.
and that ordinary people could do it. And to bring attention to the study of science, we are encouraging healthy academic rivalry, and we see all of those things playing out.
So it has had its impact, and it still is having its impact.
It is. You only have to go onto our pages and see our live chats with our former contestants, and you'll see that they are doing all sorts of wonderful things all over the world.
And that's one of the things, that come to mind, because so many of these students who have represented their schools, even now, like we're seeing, are in Ivy League institutions and all of that. So it talks about the quality they have.
The quality they have. And I'm sure that you're going to be seeing a whole lot more in public service or in big institutions, because almost 30 years now of doing it. Now the people who were in the early stages are in big positions all over the place. I was really happy, I think last week, to read that there's the incoming CEO for GNPC, 1997. NSMQ.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
The latest appointee.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
He's a product of?
97 NSMQ team.
For PRESEC, I think.
For PRESEC, yes.
Right.
So
interesting times. So you're seeing the products already. But let's talk about this season. So 499 schools with limited initial slots. Tell us about that. We're getting into the regional phase, right?
Yes, we started actually yesterday in Western region, so in Takoradi, and in Borno region, so Sunyani yesterday. Okay. We had some contests, very interesting contests.
I see. So how are the boys and the girls going to be separated from the men and the women? Tell us. What processes are we going to follow? Any changes this year?
Not really. At the regional level, you do your contest, and when you win, you get your ticket to come to the national championship, and then there will be the regional championship after the qualifier. So with the
just as was done last year.
Just as was done last year. So every region will have, or zone will have their championship right after the qualifiers, and we'll be showing some of them live. Yes, we usually do Greater Accra and Central, and so. But we want to give everybody a bit of a highlight. So we'll do Central, all right, and the usual Ashanti, but we are going to Volta as well to show Volta regional championship this year. So we want to give everybody a little bit of the spotlight also, so we can see what they are doing.
Okay, so let's talk about the seedings. Do they come in at this point? I know, for example, Kwabuche and Fantipim. Last year, they promised, and once again, there were things that happened and they couldn't make it. I mean, what happens to such schools?
They have to start again from the regional qualifiers.
Right from scratch?
Yes, from scratch. If you don't get to the quarterfinals, you have to go back and start, your campaign from the regionals. And, let's see what happens over there. I'm sure that there will be a few surprises and good ones. I was monitoring the contest yesterday, and I think the girls are doing quite well. Archbishop Porter girls won their contest. And
they've done consistently well
yes.
in these last few years.
Yes, it's unfortunate that they had to start at the regionals, though.
Right.
Last year we had high hopes for them because they did so well at the regional level. We were hoping that they could go beyond the quarterfinals, right. But it happens.
When you look at the quality we're getting, Francisca Lamini has blazed the trail, but she had 2 boys by her side. Right. Are you looking forward to a girls' school, an all-girls school, making it to the finals this year?
I am. In fact, every year that is my hope. And last year was my fervent hope that a girls' school would get to the finals. There are a number of factors that don't help them, and if we don't have time to get into all of that today, but right. I hope that they'll try to work on some of the ones that are in their power to work on.
Okay.
Give the girls some psychological support also.
A moral boost, right?
Yes.
Morale boost. So let's look at what we can expect this year on the NSMQ.
Right.
Just break it down for us as we wrap the conversation.
Well, every year there's fireworks, and we try to bring everything to our audiences. The triumphs, we de-emphasize the defeats, but there's going to be the usual fireworks, the emotional, experiences and expressions, the joy, the sorrow, and all of that. Very exciting contests. As I said, I'm sure there are going to be some surprises. Every year there's some surprise or other, and we encourage every school to put in their maximum best. We applaud them for all the work that they put into preparing the students to come and compete, and we're expecting a good competition as well this year.
And kudos to you for almost 3 decades of serving us the NSMQ.
Thank you.
All the best this year.
Thank you.
All right. And that is Nana Equia Ankoma Asare, Managing Director. I hope I got your title correct.
Yes.
Managing Director, Prime Time. She joined us for this conversation. But coming up next, after this break, we have an interview with the General Secretary of the CPP, another Nana, but this time Nanaya Achimpim Jantwa, who is purported to have been interdicted by the Central Committee of the CPP. The question is why? She insists that interdiction, though, is null and void. There seems to be some crisis in the CPP. We'll be telling you more about the internal wranglings in the CPP and the way forward for that party after the break. Well, here we are back in the studio serving you what we promised. It's all about the CPP and what is happening within that party. Joining us, General Secretary Nana Ya Jantwa. She joins us live in the studio. And I see you with, a pileup of documents that you're about to. But let me say a very good morning to you.
Good morning, my dear. How
Thank
are you? It's been a while.
It has.
How have you been doing?
We're doing well. God is gracious.
Yes, we thank God. And you're looking good.
Thank
I
you.
like your frames. That shit to me.
It's good to see you after so long. Last time we had an interaction, we were looking at the CPP's constitution, and today we're here sitting talking about the same party you're trying to build.
Yeah.
But there are problems in there.
Yes.
So let's start with
political party.
Like any political party, but they have come to the fore in recent times. Quite a number of
everybody
them.
comes.
Suspicions of embezzlement, interdictions. You are not the chairperson. Oh, I am the chairperson, and all of that.
That's a constitutional matter.
But let's start with you. You, together with Onzi Nkrumah and others,
And Osei Kofi
Akwa,
youth organizer,
got interdicted recently. Tell us why.
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to your viewers and good morning to my CPP comrades. And good morning to you all in the studio. My dear, I really didn't know why. The reason that was given was a bit untenable to all three of us. because this issue of the Nana Frimpong Sapon Kuma within...
That is the chairperson.
We can't say that because they contested within the chairmanship class and none of them got the 50% mark, but we'll come to that.
Right.
There was somebody took it to court and there was some settlement which culminated into a consent judgment. And when you look at the document, we were not involved because it is a party, and once a settlement has to be done on behalf of the party, all the structures of the party should be involved, even to the point of NEC, because once it is done, it is binding on the party. From Central Committee leadership, Central Committee, NEC, we should all know what that settlement is. But we didn't know about it. So we had calls from the grassroots. You know, we represent the party, we represent the grassroots. That's when they saw the document floating on our platforms, they were not very happy with the content. So they said that as leaders of the party, we should go to court and do an overturn of the consent judgment. A little bit history about this whole thing. When the whole thing started and they brought the settlement documents, Nana Frimpong Sapon Kuma herself said she thought it wasn't good enough for us, so we should all come together and reject it. But she went around to sign it. That is another matter. Now let's concentrate on the interdiction. So 8 of us of leadership said that this thing has to be overturned. Because
8 of you?
8.
Who are the ones you speak of?
Who are these 8? These are the 8 executive members, the 8 leadership, who have been voted to run the party on behalf of...
So you're taking out the likes of Frimpong?
Yeah, because she didn't get 50+1.
But that is contested.
We will come to
we'll
that.
get to that
yes,
point.
We'll get to that. Let's do the introduction. So 8 of us, even if we include her, she was on her own. She left us. Because she signed this and we said that we are not in agreement. Besides, you told us we should not from the beginning. So 8 of us said that this one, we should not have it because the grassroots were saying that the regional chairman, everybody who saw it, even those who hadn't heard about it at our last CC, when we read it out, some of them were even very angry. So myself, Onzi, let me start in the terms of hierarchy. Onzi Nathan Nkrumah is the first vice. Okay. The second vice is Nene Obojo, Emmanuel Nene Obojo. Then the third vice is JB Daniels. After that is me, the general secretary. After that is the national organizer. After that is the treasurer. After that is the women's organizer and the youth organizer. 8 of us.
Right.
Together. I, as a general...
So all of you had one mind?
We had one mind.
You were at Edem on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
So I, as being the general secretary, would certainly sign whichever document which states that we are doing this on behalf of all 8 of us. So I just signed the document as general secretary. There is something called democratic centralism. When all of you agree to do something and you are in it, you can, as part of comradeship, you cannot say that you will not be part, especially when I am central. Because the general secretary is the center around which everything in the party evolves. So I penned my signature on behalf of 8. It is indicated in the document that went to court that this person is doing this on behalf of 8 of us. How come only 3 were taken out and interdicted?
And that was the question I was about to follow through with you on. That you've mentioned 8 of you as executives, but it appears only you together with Onzi Nkrumah and Mr. Akwa have been singled out. The question is why? Do you know?
I can't tell. Besides, I told you earlier, if you say you are interdicting somebody, you interdict somebody who is on salary. I am not on salary.
The party doesn't pay you?
No, I do my own work to get money to look after myself. Everybody do their own little thing, even though party...
But the party doesn't pay any of you, right?
No, nobody.
Right.
And me being the general secretary, I'm sitting there 24/7, supposed to be there 24/7, running the administration of the party and everything. I'm not paid. So if you want to you talk about interdiction, then it's about somebody who is paid. And if the person is paid, you give the person half salary when they are interdicted. There are different levels of officers in our party. We have members, we have national officers, we have people who work for us. In that case, the interdiction will go for the people who work for us because they are on salary. Okay. Because if you're on salary...
That is administrative
administrative staff. If you're on salary, you are interdicted. I know the meaning of... I've been a public servant for 2. I've been in, administration, government, everything. And I know what interdiction is. When you are interdicted, you are given a half salary. Number 2, before you even take anybody further for anything, they said I did a few things. I don't know the few things I did that merited what happened.
So they say that the 3 of you, through your actions and inactions, put the party in a bad light, that you contravened the party's constitution. And if I may quote here, the chairperson, and pardon my saying that, I know you don't want me to, but she says certain persons in the CPP have vowed to keep the party comatose and have devised unethical and inferior tactics to discredit the political gains of the glorious CPP, obviously aimed at you.
So what you can't just say I've adopted inferior tactics. That is a very broad thing. Specifically, what did I do?
Unethical.
Like what? Do you get me? I mean, you should be able to tell me that this thing that you did was unethical. We are in a democratic dispensation in this nation, and the issue of democratic dispensation runs across every facet of the lives of people in this nation, and especially in a political party where we are hoping to come to power. So, if anything has happened, and we say that this one, we want to go to court to overturn it. Have we done anything wrong? Is it wrong for us to use the court system to do this? Fine. There are also systems. You see, we work with the constitution and we work with laws. Even God, when the Israelites were in the wilderness, he saw chaos and he told Moses, come up here and let me give you statutes and laws to govern the lives of these people. In every establishment, there are rules of engagement. Even in the forest, you cannot enter the pride of a lion if you don't belong to that pride. That is the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement for the CPP and for any political party is the constitution. Within this constitution, it tells you how you will do away with a national officer.
And those processes are not being followed?
No, I was just...
How do you respond when the National Communications Director says that you have consciously and consistently thwarted all efforts by the Central Committee to carry out its mandated duties? What are some of the things you've been doing that maybe have...
I haven't even heard this one.
Stoked the eye of the CC.
CC, the person who has stoked the eye of the CC is Nana Frimpong Saponguma.
How?
I didn't want to go there.
How?
You see, anytime you have to do a program, right, in the CPP, you need to seek permission from the CC. Ever since she came, nothing she has done has she sought permission from the CPP, from the CC. Let me tell you something. She has a program on Metro TV called Time with CPP. So categorical, so emphatic, with CPP's name there. Ask whether she even got content from the Central Committee. Because that program is supposed to be for the CPP. Number 2, on 6 March 2021, 5th March 2021, we had a meeting and she wanted to do a program about some business, 1 million, something about work for the youth. My 1-2K. And the CC told her categorically that wait, this program, we need to get better particulars. We need to put stuff together and we do it as a party. So don't talk about it, you don't launch. On the 6th of March 2021, she launched that program with a press.
So are you suggesting that...
but we didn't say anything because...
Nana Frimpong herself has been contravening what the party stands for?
I am saying because we thought that we should be inside, whatever it is, we should be there. And we are all women, and sometimes maybe because she hasn't been there before and knew some of the things, we just let it go. But for her to see that say that I'm thwarting the work of CC, I mean, it's a complete lie. What would I do? My dear.
Let's talk about Nana Frimpoma's chairmanship or otherwise of the party. She was here yesterday.
I wanted to conclude on this one.
Okay, you go ahead, because all that you're saying brings into contention that very bit.
We'll deal with it, but let me quickly do the processes for you to take.
So do wrap on
so
that.
So the point is that you need to go to a process. You have to give the person 1 month notice of what they have done. In the case of a national officer, 2/3 of CC should call the national officer to stand in front of CC. Then it goes to NEC.
How many members are in the CC? When
we
you
have
speak
52.
Of 2/3? 52.
Yes. Do you get me? So you have to stand in front of the CC, then go to NEC. The NEC, 2 members in NEC. Even the CC should write to you that this is what you have done. And one member will write, another one will endorse. That is the constitution. Then we go to NEC. NEC is a bigger body of about 210 people. And that is where you can talk about anything concerning the general secretary and the chairman. Even with the chairman, the Congress should ratify it. So, I mean, all these things they are talking about, anyway, let it be. It has been overturned. So let's continue, and so that we don't go into it. Constitutionally, it was wrong. Because
it was wrong. What exactly was wrong?
Like the interdiction.
The interdiction
was wrong. And all these things are very warped and put together accusations, which doesn't even make sense to me. I never did anything against CC. They should come and tell me exactly what.
Do you feel there are certain individuals who are behind this, who are maybe fostering the interdiction that you suffered?
I cannot tell. The only thing I know is that Nana Frimpoma has variously made attempts to get me out of the party. And variously she has been told that to get the general secretary out of the party, it is not an easy process. It is not an easy process. But I do not think, I'm not going to accuse anybody behind anything. We are in a party, we are building the party, we need to go to power. And that is, for me, the most important thing. The only reason why I am here is to use whatever expertise that I have, because I know the foundation of the Convention People's Party is good, and a little bit of work will find us in the Jubilee.
Okay. We have a few minutes more for this, but with all that has happened, do you feel hard done by the party?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't.
So you're going to soldier on with the CPP?
Yes, that is why I'm here.
Okay. It has come into, the bone of contention has to do with the chairmanship and how she got, I think she got, was it 43 or 48? 43%.
Yeah.
But she also spells out the fact that for the first time you were looking at all 16 regions. I recall what she said here yesterday, all 16 regions, that the dynamics had changed and that leadership of the party agreed that you didn't necessarily need someone getting 50% and over. And it was on the basis of that, especially as she had won 10 out of the 16 regions, that she became chairperson for the CPP. Is that correct?
You see, politics in Ghana...
No, is it correct? Is it correct that was the agreement, tacit agreement at the time?
I'm saying that wasn't a tacit. I've heard it so many times. And I have found out so many times. And I found out from the chairman of the IOC, the chairman of the Congress Committee. What happened was that we did a decentralized Congress. And in our constitution, the flag bearership position and the national position should be done at different times. But this time, because of COVID, we're going to do it at the same time. So we had to go for, I heard the EC said that they would not go through the elections if you don't deal with that clause, that we have to do it separately. So we went for a referendum and voted that, do you want us to do the election of flag bearer and national positions together? That is all. It was even a confirmation of our constitution. It didn't touch numbers. It didn't touch what I got or what will be the requisite for somebody to be a chairman, a flag. The flag bearer too has to get 50% or more of the valid vote cast.
Right.
And we went according to that. The flag bearer got about 68%. So there was nowhere that I do recall. Or we also look for the documents covering it. Because I have asked and I have found that even the chairman of the IOC that conducted the elections came out and has written without no doubt that election, the referendum was about the election between putting the two together at the same time.
So
numbers.
If the election was flawed, you gave the information to the Electoral Commission and they conducted this election based on your own constitution and all of that. If it was flawed, it's been 2 years.
It's only 2 years.
Why? It's been just about 2 years.
1 year.
Why have you not worked on the situation? You've waited till now with the internal party wranglings. I mean, what are you doing to the CPP, the party you claim to love? You claim that someone was illegally elected, but you've allowed the person to serve, and now all this has come up. 2 years to another election.
My dear, you see, it is good you're asking why we are here today, because it didn't start today. There has been petitions upon petitions. There have been court cases upon court cases. The fundamentals of whatever we are going through is the fact that this constitution, which says in Article 93E that if the chairman does not get 50% or more of the valid vote cast at a Congress, then it means it shall be deemed as if that person has not been voted for. It goes on to say in 93(2) that there will be a re-election between the first person and the second person. We have a second contender, and that is in the person of Hajia Hamdatu Ibrahim, the former chairman, acting chairman. If she wants us to go for a rerun, if she accepts that there should be a rerun, it will be very much unfair that we don't do that. Also, we have been bedeviled with court cases. You can't even work. Everyday petitions. When the settlements came in, then petitions started coming that you cannot settle a constitutional matter.
Right.
And sweetheart, the point is that it has happened before. In 1999, Professor Dele and Dr. Abubakar Al-Hassan and Mausi Dake, and Mausi Dake and Ebotewia, they went for the chairmanship. None of them, 4 of them, just like this, 4 of them, none of them got the 50% or more mark. There was a vote, a re-election between Professor Dele and Dr. Abubakar Al-Hassan. At that time, the first vice chairman was our current Council of State chairman, senior comrade Felix Amwa, and he acted as the chairman till an election was done after 1 year, because the CPP was in court at the time trying to get back the name.
So it is clear that there are precedents that we can follow when it comes to what you're saying. But now that you find yourselves where you do, and to wrap the conversation, you find yourselves where you do. You're calling for unity in the party. She is calling for unity. You are calling for unity. Yeah. How are you going to execute that mandate? You're executives of the party. Yeah. You are on one side together with your others, 8 of you.
Yes.
And there's the chairperson.
Yes. And we all believe.
How are you going to find middle ground ahead of election 2024?
We are going to do a rerun. The CC has said there should be a rerun. A Congress committee has been put in place. There will always be the CPP should be the first. Because when we had that meeting, the words they used was to uphold the constitution of the Convention's People's Party. And this constitution says, without any doubt, that for you to sit on that seat, to be the chairman and leader of that party, of this great party, then you should have 50% or more of the valid vote cast. I do not think it is for any reason why they did that. You need to be able to be popular to command the troops. Because in politics, it's commanding the troops.
Is the Nafrin Poma popular?
I don't know. I can't tell.
So the Congress will tell?
Yeah, the Congress will tell. And I do not think why we are going through this. If there's going to be a rerun, she has only 7% to make up. Hajia Hamdatu has about 11% to make up. 7%, you have your 43% standing. You just work for 7%.
Okay, my very final bit to you. Yeah. In the last election, the CPP performed abysmally.
Yeah.
Can you win election 2024?
We can.
You can?
Yes, we can, because the people of Ghana are tired of the duopoly. And wherever you go, people are saying, CP. Even today, as I sat here, I met a man who asked who I am, and I said, oh, I am this, that. He said, oh, everywhere you go, from Kantamanto to Kejetia to Makola. Everywhere you mention CPP, they all say Monyiremu. So now the word is Monyiremu. But my dear, if we are going to take power and we cannot enforce our own constitution, how can we enforce the constitution?
Point made. Nanaya, we'll have to draw the curtains here. Do stay with us, but thank you so much for joining the conversation. Nanaya Jantua, General Secretary of the party. It's good to see you again. And she joined us with the latest. But let's also cross over. We're going to be interacting with my colleague Samuel Kojo-Brace. Now, yesterday, he was on site at the Opera Square on the back of that fire that engulfed the building. We'll connect with Samuel Kojo-Brace now. Samuel, it's good to have you. Now, I know you're back at the location, the scene of this fire. What is the latest that you can report today?
Ben.
Yes, I can hear you, Samuel. So what is the latest? Has the fire completely been doused as of now?
The latest is that, as you can see, the fire service like I was saying, the fire service have been able to bring the fire under control. I mean, they have extinguished the fire completely. What you see, there might be some small underlining fires, and of course, that is why they are here, to ensure that everything is completely quenched. Now, I understand the fire was completely put out at about 7:39 a.m. this morning. And so it tells you the number of hours they've used in fighting this fire. They tell me they came to fight this fire from 4:35, around 4:38 p.m. yesterday evening, and then they were able to put the fire out completely at 7:39 a.m. this morning. So throughout the night, they have been doing everything they can to extinguish the fire. I am told they marshaled about 11 fire tenders here and appliances just to aid in the fight in fighting this fire. If you can see behind us, the structure is it's not completely gone except the ground floor. The ground floor, by the grace of God, nothing happened there really. But the first and the second floor are all completely gone. Even the second floor has caved in onto the first floor now. Fortunately, I've been joined here by the Fire Service Regional Commander, Alhaji Jibril Nuhu, who is the Greater Accra Regional Commander of the Fire Service. Chief, what's the, as we see, I mean, I've only given a brief from a layman's point of view. You are the technical man. Which stage are we?
Thank you very much. We have extinguished the fire already. As we are here now, like you said, we are doing mop-up. Means we are standing by so that when there's any pockets of fire that reignite, then we need it in the bath. So that is what we are doing, mop-up. So our men have been strategically positioned in there and some are outside there, observing so that the slightest fire we see reigniting, we need it in the bath. That is what we call mopping up. That is what we are doing. That's why we are here. Okay. The appliances were 11. We have dispatched some to go back, whilst others are standing by. So that is where we are now.
Well, if you look at how the destruction has been, why did it take us that long a time to quench the fire?
Thank you very much. You may say it is a long time, but to us it is not a long time because depending upon what is at stake, what is burning. One, we saw the fire at 4:34 yesterday, and the first appliance proceeded. And on reaching here, being proactive, we quickly commandeered additional 10 appliances so that we will not have so much challenges. And we were fighting the fire, just that the building has been partitioned with concrete blocks, and that it made accessibility very difficult. We couldn't get easy access to fight the fire. That was a challenge. Apart from that, we did our best looking at the appliance that we commandeered, but the accessibility was a problem. Yeah.
So it was because the access wasn't there. But I see a lot of smoke coming out. What could this be telling us?
Yes, thank you very much. It depends on the combustible materials. Per our observation, there were so much rubber materials in there. And so when they are on fire, eventually the smoke is so much. Okay. Yeah, so it depends upon the combustible materials that were on fire.
Okay. Do you have an idea what was up there?
Per what we are hearing and per observation, there are these rubber bags and other poly materials, rubber bags, poly materials, and other things.
All right, okay. Thank you very much, Alajunu. I'm grateful. Let me try and get some of the traders here and have a chat with. Chief, good morning. You have your store here. Okay, so that's fine.
And say the Edikai, fire service for no abaso. Oh, I had na process for so buy. I had dear. Now they say China China phobia. They be so well dear was raw. They be all well dear and a jatom. It's one a cost of fire. On a cost of fire because I die. Yaka aho somewhere. Ebinumo pre. Wo brodia waba. Adwuma no nya wadwuma. Kofa wada papa no ameye. They say there be on here. They di kan bebo fire service for na baso. Won wa ya de di kan.
Na say or well they almost say won hu da.
Yes, bisa on nyina. Or well the gate. On si da bia na obeye. Da bia oye. Na dra oye no. Owo soro. Ti won wa hu. Ejani top no. Anu hwirisi form.
Okay. And the chairman in your man okay, so what this woman was basically saying was to applaud the fire service and the Ghana Police Service for the work they've done here. She's also blaming the foreigners who are allegedly the owners of the warehouses up there for the activities they've been doing. According to her, they hear that the foreigners have been doing some welding activities, and it is as a result of that the fire broke out there. Now, almost I say, oh no. Omo aprofo na say mo be so mo de ka ho
before no be de ka ho but fakase na ye Chinese for na esoro ho na ye omo de ano
enti no Ghana for no omo de say na omo wo hen fa aprofo no so omo hen
aprofo na no pay de ye hu omo wa ha ba Ghana ni no one moro ono so wa around na onenam ha
moro
bebre Ghana for no bebre wholesale e was ro afa na won wate a won wo boba eti China for na welding niam no on na ye cause of problem ni nyina won da bia ye ka hoho asem a won ma ye kwan e de akofa ba no eti de di kan me bo won aba so
hold on
enso no so omodi fight eja no so adoso enti ama shops no so e what down na eja na ankom no enso no so afrade mu I say eniema no e wo under
enti no den na mo be
ye hwese nkeja na be kɔ fam na ye betimi abie shops no na ya hwɛ kwan ya betimi afa so na ye si ano ensuo ne so aba inside no ene kan so a beba money ade but said ye maame di kan ye bo fire service for aba so pa esan say finra enumre be say 4:30 no ene Ghana police said nra chief fire officer ankasa na o ha regional commander na o ha nadmo panyin
into no o store de kan ho be na share
me store share by ensuo na akom me shop and share MP said the medical can ye hwese eja na beba from na afi ye bia akwan e be fa so afi ye be hu de ensu ase no ne de ensay no
so basically what they are saying is that the warehouses up there, some belong to Ghanaians, but a lot of them belong to the Chinese, and but we are not able to tell exactly the destruction, because those who are directly affected have not come around as of yet. What basically they are saying is that they want the fire to extinguish completely, and then they can then tell exactly what is the sort of destruction they've had. But do you have a fair idea?
Nneɛma dodoɔ asɛe deɛ mentimi mbɔ me tirim nka sese a ɛsiane sɛ nneɛma a yɛtɔn dɔɔso, yɛwɔ air conditions, yɛwɔ fridges, yɛwɔ TV, yɛwɔ freezers, nneɛma bebree. Nti gye sɛ agya ne ba fam na yɛwura mu a na yɛbɛhu deɛ asɛe ne deɛ ɛnsɛe. Nti yɛntimi mbɔ yɛ tirim nka biribi sese a nsuo nso wɔ ɛhɔ ankasa. Nti agya ne ba fam na yɛwura mu a na yɛbɛhu sɛdeɛ situation na ɛte.
All right, so I'm sure it will take us close to midday for us to tell exactly the level of destruction here. So I mean, the ground floor, as you see in the video now, they remain unharmed yet because they've been closed. So until they are opened, that's when we can tell the level of destruction. But if you can see from your screens, smoke is still billowing around, and it sort of confirms what the fire service personnel were telling me earlier, that they will still be around to understand what this smoke would result in, because it might be because.
Well, billowing smoke and a lot of lost property scenes from Opera Square, where my colleague Samuel Kojo-Brace has been reporting. We'll bring you more of that scoop in our subsequent bulletins. But as we wrap the AM show, we all know water is life. Water regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for every occasion: 330 ml and 550 ml or 500 ml to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and if you're like me, then 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes as well. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, please call 0262 351 251. Now, did you know that the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected businesses is exempt from tax for 5 years? Any young entrepreneur engaged in manufacturing, information and communications technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism and the creative arts, horticulture and medicinal plants does not need to pay any income tax on these activities for the first 5 years of operation. A young entrepreneur engaged in a business that enjoys an initial 5-year concession benefits from the following applicable tax rates for an additional 5 years. Accra and Tema 15%, other regional capitals outside the 3 northern regions 12.5%, outside the other regional capitals 10%, and in the 3 northern regions 5%. For further clarity, information, reach out to your nearest GRA office. Ghana Revenue Authority, integrity, fairness, and service. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you once more for joining us on the AM show. Our major bulletins come your way at 10 and at noon. Do stay.